Welcome to Aired Out, a YouTube podcast that is filmed and featured here at Central Vermont Television in Barrie, Vermont. Public access channel 192 and 194. I want to thank you for subscribing to the channel, for your interest in the show. Please make sure to like and share and comment on whatever it is that you see and hear, and post it up on social media. Share with your friends. This is a full-hour podcast that really cannot be put in a box. It is centered around community happenings, the arts, public affairs, and so much more. It is right here that we're hoping to shine the spotlight on the movers and the shakers here in the Green Mountain State and beyond. And we very much look forward to working with some nonprofits and the Vermonters that just make this state tick. We're going to try to resolve issues. We're going to talk about things accomplished. We're going to promote events and fundraisers, and occasionally push some boundaries. And mostly we're going to hopefully enlighten, inform, entertain, and we want to thank you again for your interest in connecting with the show. Thanks for your curiosity, your suggestions, your honesty, and most of all, your friendship. My goal is to inspire you and make you think about things. Today, we are chatting with a great friend of mine and a sponsor of the podcast. Today's show is for anyone that is planning to get married in the coming year or the future. The most important day of your life is what many say, and yet when the pressure is on to make it as perfect as you have fantasized about, making all those guests happy, too many cooks in the kitchen often, and things can unravel very quickly. The real pros in the wedding business know how to get the train back on the tracks quickly without many people noticing. And when it comes to DJing and the DJs, the best know that the single most important ingredient to a successful event is being prepared and organized way ahead of time. But also knowing how to handle the last minute and the sometimes last second changes on the fly. My guest this time around on Aired Out is the owner of one of our presenting sponsors here on the podcast, Newton Wells of Peak Entertainment. I'm so happy that you're here, man.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here.
We have known each other for a long time. You were one of the first that I ever met when I moved to Vermont. I want to just say, before I forget, that Judy from the Vermont Wedding Association was supposed to be here today. She wasn't able to make it, but I'm hoping to get her on the podcast because, man, oh man, does she know her stuff.
She has a lot of stories to tell, I'm sure.
Big time. I want to start out with some of the recognition that you've had, some of the statistics that you've had since 1996 when you started this.
Yeah.
And I remember doing your first wedding with you.
Yes.
We've been friends for a long time. But if you had to guess how many weddings that you have hosted and been the DJ and MC of since 96, do you have any idea?
I do. It's funny. I know exactly how many gigs we've done in that time, and it's somewhere around it's just over 6,000. Wow. At least that's what's in the spreadsheet right now, but wow. that includes this coming year as well. But
we're going to talk sound quality, personality, the right music, dependability, reputation. What's the most important feature that a future bride should be looking for in a DJ? And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here.
Well,
there's a lot of important things, but what's like number one, man?
Number one, now the question, I think we can break this into two parts. what's she looking for in the actual DJ, or what's she looking for in the company that might be employing that DJ? And in some cases, of course, that's one and the same, and that's what we call a single operator in the industry. A single operator is, of course, how I started, where it's one DJ who's running his own show, running his own business, he does everything. He buys his gear, maintains his gear, books the gigs, does the gig, and basically, manages his own advertising and everything. But but in a lot of cases, a DJ might be working for a DJ company. And so there would be two different things that you'd be looking for. I think if you're hiring a DJ company, the number one thing you want is professionalism, someone who is excited about working with you and responding to you. And that enthusiasm is also the number one thing you want in your DJ. So regardless of whether or not someone is booking a single operator or a DJ company with multiple DJs, enthusiasm is the number one thing.
Well, because if they're enthusiastic, then they're probably going to be on time and professional and have all of their ducks in a row.
It tends to spill over at the gig.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It does. The enthusiasm, the whole experience around, when you send that first email, make that first contact, make that first phone call, what do you get in response?
Yeah.
Does the person respond with professionalism? Do they respond with enthusiasm?
Sure.
Are they excited to do your wedding, do it your way, do it on that particular day? It's amazing how sometimes that isn't the case.
It has, and let's say sometimes when you start out your DJ business, it can take a very long time before you've weeded out a staff and you've got a team that these guys so well, so personally, and that they really, truly enjoy what they do. It's not just a job.
That's it. You nailed it right on the head. One of the few things you mentioned that I should be thinking about on my way over here to do this today was mistakes and things we've learned over the years. And one of my biggest things that I've really learned that I think was the most beneficial was how to find good people, how to tell which ones are the ones that are really committed to it, really have the right skills to do it well and to stick with it, and how to treat those employees in a way that keeps them around, because it's not all about the cash. It's also about being respectful of their needs, their schedules, and how you treat them if something goes wrong, because mistakes do happen.
Yeah.
The DJs make mistakes, I make mistakes, our clients make mistakes, and ultimately we have to look at those mistakes and go, okay, well, how can we make it right, and how can we learn from it to make sure we don't do it again?
Yeah.
And we can get back to that, but yeah, the employees are that's the biggest thing, finding the right people,
all right guys,
and making sure that
gals.
If you've got the right guy or girl, you're keeping them
for sure
well prepared and well treated, and that their needs are taken into account. Now, so that they're enthusiastic.
Sure.
When they get to the gig.
Sure, of course. Yeah. I'll tell everybody a little secret about the two of us. As I said, we've been friends for a very long time. But when we first met, we were working for Frankie Allen, Classic Hits 101.7.
We put the rock in the mountains.
Yeah, man. It was a great station in Stowe that is no longer there. But that's where we met and became friends instantly. And when the station was sold and the new owner came in with the announcement, I remember looking at you and saying, I'm going to go try to work for the new owner. Are you coming? And you said,
I'm going to start a DJ company.
And I said,
you're crazy. And I'm sure you were not alone.
I said a little bit more than you were crazy, but you were, that was the edited version, I think. I thought you were totally crazy, man.
Well,
you
know,
said, I'm going to start up a mobile DJ business, and look at you now. 20-something years. What is it? How many years? Whatever.
22 years now.
22 years later. You are so successful. You have a team of guys. You've got a ton of equipment. And look at this. Bride's top pick with the Vermont Wedding Association. What are some of the kudos that you've got?
Well, first off, before we get into kudos, we've got to mention that, like, you know, as much as I appreciate the praise, and thank you very much, you know, 95% of what we do is done by the employees that work with our company. And so when you're reading
the venues,
the employees that work with us, you know, are DJs. And And so when you're reading that we are Bride's top pick, that we are Weddingwire's Couples Choice Awards 9 years in a row now, the Knot Best of Weddings, I don't know how many years that's been.
The Knot, K-N-O-T.
Yes, the Knot.
Yeah.
The THEKNOT is like the Knot and Weddingwire are the two online huge wedding presences.
Yeah.
And so we get the Knot Best of Weddings and Weddingwire's Couples Choice Awards every year, and there's other things that we've been recognized for, but I have to say that, like, and I tell this to all the brides that call, you know, if you read those reviews, 95% of those reviews are not for gigs that I did, but for gigs that my employees did.
Yeah.
And so they deserve the credit. You know, the people that are working for me who are dedicated, they're calling me up and, like, saying, all right, this is when I want to work this month.
Sure.
Give me some gigs. We assign the gigs. And they're reading their itineraries, they're contacting their couples to make sure everything is just as it's supposed to be.
Sure.
And then they're showing up on time, early, whatever is necessary to make sure that happens. So.
There's so much that I want to talk with you about, but let's want
to start at the beginning?
Well, the beginning.
Way back in '96.
That was you were. I have to be honest with you, man. You were.
I was green.
You were green.
I was more than green.
But I remember, and I was. This was literally the first wedding I think we ever did together.
Oh yeah.
And it.
Oh yeah.
The wheel was in my hands. It turned out to be in my hands, and I was driving the bus. And when we left that night, we were lucky to be alive. But when we left that night, I remember what you were doing. I was driving, and you were taking notes. And I said, "What are you taking notes on?" And you said, "Everything that I did wrong, so that I'll never do it again, so that I'll get it right." And I remember you saying to me, "If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to be a complete failure." And you learned, man, from, like, right off. I mean, and we still to this day talk about honing down skills and always
true.
Constantly keeping the edge sharp. There's always, I don't care who you are, what company you own or operate, there's always room for improvement.
That's absolutely true.
And
when you think you've got it mastered,
but
there's so much more to learn.
You know, we should say that a lot of DJs, it's a side business. This is your full-time company. This is something that you get up in the morning and you work on all day long.
Absolutely.
Year-round.
Yeah.
7 days a week, often, to always be prepared for the weeks that are coming up. From assigning your DJs, making sure your equipment is maintained and serviced and is clean and ready to go, tested. You've always got it prepared. And you and I have always said to each other the 6 Ps,
yes,
which you have incorporated into your mantra as a business owner. Prior planning prevents piss-poor performance.
I try to leave the piss out.
This is, you know, the show's called Aired Out.
But
man,
yes, well, that's true. So, you know, you want it straight, that's it.
Let's I mean, we both have learned so much. We have not only learned what we should do and not should do, and I'm one of your DJs.
Yeah, true.
But we have also learned in doing so many weddings. How many weddings have you done? Who knows? Hundreds.
Well, yeah, it's roughly around probably 5,000.
Yeah. You learn what brides should do and what brides should not do, and what venues should do and not do, and coordinators should do and not do. The relationship with the coordinator is critical for you as the business owner. You are constantly staying in touch with them. You're constantly reviewing an itinerary that you have designed with the bride and making sure the coordinator is on the same page, including the day of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the itinerary is critical. That's the beginning. I mean, if someone gets on peakdj.com or peakentertainment.com, they can fill out a questionnaire and get a quote. But when the deposit comes in and the date has been booked, you immediately start working on an itinerary, which is so detailed. I mean, everything is in there. When a disc jockey shows up, they pick up that packet of information, the directions, what time to leave, what time to get there, who to speak with when you get there, everyone's name, how it's pronounced, where to load in, where to load out, ceremony music, cocktail music, special requests for additional microphones, what have you. I mean, there is so much that is involved in this day.
Even how to set up those microphones so that you don't get feedback and you don't get dropouts.
Exactly.
You know, and it's all about eliminating problems, making sure that my phone isn't ringing with a panicked DJ on Saturday.
Ahead of time.
Yeah. Right.
I want to just, now that you mention that, I want to mention something that brides may not think about and how you get through this.
Sure.
I have spoken with brides before who, morning of, day of, couple hours before, there was something tragic that happened to the DJ, either a car accident or what have you, a family emergency, and for whatever reason, hours before the wedding, the DJ's backed out. That's probably something that a lot of brides maybe don't think about.
Yeah, I think a lot of clients do not think about that. That's
the
true.
Ultimate nightmare. How, and I know the answer to this, but how does Peak Entertainment get around something like that?
Well, that's where we get back to that 95% of our events being done by the employees.
Yeah, right.
Because, you know,
you've got a plan.
We've got a plan, and part of that plan is on a busy day, I shouldn't be doing an event. You know,
Bingo.
My job is to be there in case one of the guys gets sick, breaks his leg hiking, has a family emergency, has a car problem.
Right.
All of these things have happened on Saturday mornings in the last 22 years.
And you've learned.
The phone rings, and you know, if I'm assigned to a job, then I need to have somebody else's backup.
Sure.
But I'm the most effective backup because I wrote all the itineraries. And I know every venue that we work at.
Yeah.
And I can most easily and most quickly jump in a car that already has a DJ system loaded, ready to go.
Already has the sound in it.
Yep.
You've already got a spare itinerary.
Yep. And I have a USB with...
You have a USB with all of the special music on it.
All the special music for every gig we're doing that day in the car, ready to go.
It's just simply a matter of getting there fast enough. You know exactly where you're going.
Yep.
And you got a incredible, and let's say this, an incredible lady in your life who understands that if you guys are hiking or you're out doing something on a beautiful sunny day or peak foliage or whatever, the phone rings, you got to go.
Yeah, and I am very fortunate. I got to tell you, I've been through years and years of dating people who did not understand that,
Sure.
didn't appreciate that.
Correct.
And eventually, they were like, you don't have time for me.
Sure.
And
Right.
that's
Right.
their prerogative. I mean, everyone has a different priority of what they want in a partner.
But running a successful business with an impeccable reputation is key.
It is, and it's what I love, and and I know, and all of my friends have said many times in the past, that Nudie is married to his business.
Yes,
and
Yes.
My girlfriend knows that too, but she's good with it. But I tell you, I mean, she was one out of many that most of them didn't last, the old joke was, people would ask me, so like, how come you're not married? You got all this going on and everything's running really well. And I'm like, I got a successful small business and the string of ex-girlfriends to prove it.
Yeah, right. That's right. You're such an entrepreneur, man.
You can't do everything 100%. I'm very, very fortunate to have someone in my life who lets me live my life the way I want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that bride that is maybe watching right now, or future groom.
Sure.
Who says, "Okay, so what kind of music that do you have? Tell everyone about the MPs and the DNPs."
Sure. All right. So yeah, it's funny, people they do sometimes ask, like, so what do you play? And it's like, we'll play whatever you want. I get hired by Indian people, like from New York or whatever,
sure.
Pakistani couples, all sorts of couples, not to mention the ones that might be, just local, like they only want to hear classic rock and country,
Sure.
or pop and hip hop and don't play anything old, What matters is, whatever the couple wants is what's going to get played. And our goal is to, during the planning process, is to find out exactly what it is that couple wants us to play. And to do that, we have a method of having them go through our entire list and pick out everything they want us to focus on. Mm-hmm. And then of those songs, prioritize the ones that are most important. And we'll make sure that the ones that are most important definitely get played. The ones that are less important, but we know they like them, those provide our well of things to draw on for the rest of the playlist.
To pull from.
And and we know that if they program the right music, and in most cases our clients know their crowds better than we do, particularly going into the gig. They tend to program stuff that works, at least for that particular crowd. And as long as we have enough to keep that crowd engaged and not leave that list, then we know that we've done the best job that we can do, because we're playing stuff that the couple loves and we're keeping their crowd on the floor in the process.
So you basically, and you have, how many songs do we have in the library?
We keep about 1,500, give or take. Every year it fills up again with new additions, and then every year we go through and hack out the older stuff that's, songs have a shelf life, and most of them they're hot for a little while and then they're toast. And in most cases, 80 or 90% of those songs will never come back. But there's a few. There's the 10% that will, that seem to stick around. Yeah, by Usher is one of those. Yeah. That song never goes away. Yeah. It keeps on working. It's got to be 10 years old by now. It's been on the hot list since the day it was new. But there aren't many songs like that.
And Jump Around.
Yeah, Jump Around, House of Pain. It works every time. It's funny.
The thing is, Peak Entertainment gives the bride and the groom pretty much the whole playlist and says, hey, go ahead and cherry pick. Are there songs that you absolutely must hear that are special favorite songs, or favorite songs of folks that are going to be there as guests, but also songs that you have, so you have them categorized as MP, which is must play, and DNP, which is do not play. Yeah. There are some songs that brides and grooms may forget about, that they're like absolutely do not play that song.
Yeah.
That was their previous wedding dance or whatever.
Yeah. You never know.
We have them categorized, so it's a safe bet that there won't be any surprises on the dance floor during your wedding. We get brides and grooms who say, look, there's going to be 150, 200 people there. All we really want is for there to be as many people on the dance floor dancing and having fun. We give you the wheel. It's up to you to read the crowd and assess what kind of audience it is and kind of chalk up the demographic to where we're going to go and maybe a genre that we might hang out with or hang out in for a little bit longer if it's 70s or 80s. Or maybe it's an 80s dance crowd or a 90s audience. It depends. And what we do, what we're great at, is before the dancing portion of that day is even started, during the ceremony, I'm looking out at all of the guests that are there at the ceremony, and I'm taking a reading of what kind of crowd this might be. But we also have brides who say, look, here is the list of the songs that we would like you to play. Don't play any other songs other than what's on this list.
Yeah, we get a lot of those brides.
They're very specific.
They are. They know what they want.
What do you do? What do we do when that may be the fact? What happens when what the bride and groom really love and what they want us to play is just not working for the crowd?
Well, that all depends on how much flexibility they've given us to leave that list.
What happens if there's no flexibility?
If there's no flexibility and all those are must plays, then we have to stick to them. And it's our job to then do what we can while working within those parameters.
Sure.
And, it may be tough. And sometimes there's not a whole lot you can do. But we very rarely get so many must plays that there's no flexibility. And if that is the case, I do usually try to explain that situation to the couple in advance so that I bring to attention the fact that our hands are pretty tied here,
sure.
and we might need some flexibility to vary from
we've
that.
had brides come up to us after a half an hour of no dancing, or
yes,
and
we have.
say cancel.
Yeah. Cancel the must play list. Just make my people have fun.
Right.
Yeah, make my guests dance.
How often does that happen?
More often than people would think. but I've gotten better over the years at trying to at refining the instructions of how we guide people through programming their music,
sure.
so that we have fewer and fewer of those situations.
Sure.
Most of our couples, they have the same goal that we do. Most of them.
Right.
The goal is to keep the crowd on the floor having a good time.
No matter what.
No matter what. And most of our brides, they want to hear their favorite songs.
Sure.
But most of them will also, understand that if the song isn't working well,
right.
they would much rather have us play something else.
Just take over at that point.
But yeah, and we do get a few who I think may not, spend enough time, thinking about those instructions and that guidance that I give them, and they just kind of quickly go through the list without reading the page of instructions, and they send me a list of 80 must plays for a gig where we have time for half that.
Yeah.
And so clearly we're not going to have time for anything other than must plays.
Yeah.
And at that point, as long as there's 40 good ones in the list of 80, sure. That's all I need.
Sure.
So the toughest situation is when they only give you 50 songs. You've only got time for 50 songs, and those are the only 50 you can play.
Sure.
Then you don't have any flexibility at all. So
right.
Sometimes I'll just send it back to the bride and say, hey, can you, we might run out of time. We might run out of music for the amount of time that we have. Can you program a few more that you'll approve of. And,
Sure.
and they usually can.
Yeah.
You know, but ultimately it's our job to just do what they say, and it usually works out. But the guests, boy, you've got to be able to keep them in mind if you want to keep them on the floor.
So what are all the? I mean, I just represented Peak Entertainment at a Vermont Wedding Association bridal show, which was last weekend down in Rutland at the Holiday Inn. We've been there several times, every year, I think, pretty much. Judy's incredible, by the way.
Like 20 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. You walk into this ballroom. There's photographers, there's videographers, there's dresses, there's tuxedos, there's flowers, there's wedding favors, lots of different wedding favors. There's DJs, there's photo booths. What am I missing here? There's
cake bakers.
cake.
And,
I forgot about the cake.
You know, there's a lot of venues.
There's
that show
jewelers
up.
there. I mean,
Everything that could be
everything.
related to a wedding.
Everything. What's the most important?
Boy, that's a good question.
And as I know you will be.
Now,
you're
who am I going to offend here?
you're a
do I want to
super-
offend the cake bakers
No.
and say that? No.
No. You're a super objective guy, and
Well-
I think we both know the answer to it. And that's, I don't want to answer for you.
Sure.
But what are the guests and the bride and groom going to remember the most from that day?
Yeah, that's a good point. And that being said, photography is huge. Having a
Huge.
photographer that can grasp the moments as they're happening
Capture.
and it's funny, we work with a lot of photographers, and I don't know the first thing about photography myself. I really don't. But I do know that after a wedding, I've talked to a lot of these photographers, because we always end up having dinner with the photographer
Sure.
at the gig.
Of course.
So we always talk about, hey, what's the business like for you and everything. And ultimately, it's like they're going to shoot hundreds of photos that day, maybe even thousands. I mean, they're snapping all day long.
Yeah, especially if there's 2 or 3.
Yes, they might have 2 or 3 photographers, and everyone, they're just, cameras these days, they're snapping one after the other, like every split second. They have a lot of material to go through after the gig, and most of them say that they're spending 40 hours a week editing and just narrowing down the list of photos to the ones that they're going to use, and then editing those.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the couple will sit down and look through a lot of them once, twice, but ultimately there's going to be 5 or 10 photos that will hang on the wall. And it's those
If
5
that.
or 10 photos.
If
Yeah,
that.
if that. And it's those 5 or 10 that are going to matter. So yeah, there's all the posed stuff in the beginning, but
Sure.
grabbing those shots of things that just happen,
First dances.
first
special
dance,
dances.
and things that just kind of, the photographers who are really good are the ones who are keeping their eyes out for everything, and they're snapping a photo of the groom standing in the corner alone when he thinks nobody's looking, and he's just sort of contemplating the day, and he's got a small smile on his face, and he's looking out the window. He might be looking at the ceremony
Sure.
arch outside the window or something, and
Bang. He's got it.
thinking about how excited he is, and what a huge impact this day will have on his life, and
Sure.
and the photographer that's able to capture that moment.
Sure.
And
I
you
always
can't pose it.
Of course.
Can't.
I always know a great photographer when they will come over to me while I'm DJing, just to maybe quickly go over the upcoming itinerary or ask me a couple of questions of so on and so forth. I always know a great photographer when they come over and they speak to me, they're not looking at me. They never look at me while they're speaking.
wonder why.
They're looking up at the crowd. They never take their eye off of the floor.
True.
Ever.
Yeah,
That's a great photographer right there. I think.
that's true.
I think anyway.
That's true. They're always on.
So the photographer, most important part of the.
I mean, I think that's arguably a very important part. I think it's hard to pick one that's most important because everything sort of has its importance. You know, if the food didn't come out, or
true.
God forbid the caterer couldn't make it for
Sure.
some reason,
Right.
but you know, the food's important.
Yeah.
But I think you can gauge the most important aspect by asking yourself, okay, if this vendor didn't show up, what would happen?
What would happen?
How would it impact the day?
Could we get through it?
Yeah, could you get through it? You know, I think in any situation you can pull something off.
Sure.
You know, I was at a wedding once where the photographer went to a venue by the same name in Connecticut rather than Vermont, because the photographer was from New York, as the couple was from New York. They were getting married in Vermont, and you know, they mentioned that it's at this particular venue, but for some reason there was no communication about that venue was the one in Vermont, not the one in Connecticut. And so these things happen, you know, and at that point, you know, it's the goal of every vendor who's there to do what they can to help out and like make the situation right,
Sure.
the best that they can. So at that point, it's like, okay, who do we know in the crowd or anyone at the venue that might have a really good camera, you know,
Sure.
or be really good at least with their iPhone,
Right.
you know.
You and I have shared over the 22 years so many stories.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even tell you how many times we have chatted at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning on a summer night.
On the way home from a
on
gig.
the way home from a wedding, that you know what we learned, what was good, what could have been better. I remember one wedding I did for you, where I looked up, and just a few minutes before the bridal party was being introduced, I looked up, and here comes the photographer walking towards me 100 miles an hour, soaking wet.
Yes.
He had fallen into the pool with his
His camera.
With his camera.
Oh.
Now, he had a spare camera
Right.
that was okay, but he said, he came up to me, dripping wet, and said, "I don't care what you got to do. I need you to stall. I need to buy time."
Yep.
And he ran away. And turned out that the owner of the venue got him into another set of clothes. And
Yep.
you know what the amazing thing is things got turned around so quickly, and the bride and groom
Didn't know the difference.
did not know.
That's the key.
That's the key. They
That is the
didn't
key.
know what happened.
That's the way you want it.
And we were thrown
Yeah.
off schedule. I mean, you know, the food and everything was delayed by I want to say maybe 15 minutes.
That's probably about right.
And I had to, I had to stall the crowd a little bit and play some extra music, but it was fine.
yeah.
Everything was fine.
Yeah.
But you remember that, though.
I remember that. And I know that venue that you were talking about, and
Yeah.
they are total pros.
Yes, they are.
Total
Yeah,
pros. I
complete.
mean, they understand that if something happens with one of their vendors, people are human and things do happen.
Yeah.
And if something does happen, the name of the game, just as it is for us when we roll in there, is to help make that wedding happen
Yeah.
at all costs.
At all
Doesn't
costs.
matter if it's our job, doesn't matter if it's in the contract, doesn't matter if we're getting paid for it.
That's right.
You know,
You step up.
you step up and you do whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game. And you don't make it the couple's problem.
Sure.
And that's why nobody told the couple I'm sure they learned about it
Yeah.
after the wedding, maybe the next day or whatever, and I'm sure the photographer told them. But nobody told them on the day of, because they don't need that much stress on their wedding day. They don't need to worry about that.
Sure. You
And
have each other's backs.
That's
no matter what.
why I love working at the Round Barn and at other venues like that, where they understand, and they're so professional about the way that they do weddings. You know, that's huge.
Yeah. So, let's talk about bridezillas.
And groomzillas and momzillas.
Now, there is such a thing as a groomzilla.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. We get them once in a while. You know. I mean,
I know there is, but I just said that.
yeah. You know, it's funny. We don't get too many where like the groom is the contact, and like.
Sure.
But it does happen occasionally. Once in a while, I notice that grooms will say that, like, well, this is the one thing that I've been assigned. You know, hiring and interacting with the DJ. So this is my thing, and boy, we get a few once in a while where they are some particular about stuff.
And
but it's okay.
And you know going into the wedding that even if everything were perfect, they're looking for something. They're searching to try to find something to call somebody out on.
Yeah.
You know?
You do get those once in a while.
Yahoo just published a story, and I know we've heard everything, but maybe not this one. A bride-to-be wants her bridesmaids to change the color of their eyes so they don't clash with the color of the dresses that she's choosing. No joke here.
Wow. So what, they're supposed to wear colored contacts?
Yes. She took to Facebook and to ask whether or not she was being too over the top for wanting to buy colored contact lenses for her blue-eyed bridesmaids.
I guess that depends on whether or not they're all willing to do it.
Yeah. I saw the post. It included a picture of the wedding, or the bridesmaid's dress, and her post was quickly shared to a wedding shaming Facebook group, which I'm sure, as you can imagine, she got some choice comments on. But
I remember the one you mentioned where like the bride, she wanted all of her guests to pay for her wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she got all upset and was totally offended that the guests weren't going to fork over, what, $1,500 a piece or something
like that,
to make this thing happen. It was some really...
Yeah, I was talking about that on the air. I was talking about that one on the air.
I think it was last year. I remember that one.
It was.
Man.
So I have my answer for this next question, but I'm just wondering if you and I are going to share the same answer on this. What's the single? I want to ask you. I want you to be thinking about what you think wedding coordinators could do to make your life easier, and to make and to make the event itself, the wedding itself, the whole wedding itself easier. But first,
well,
what's the biggest mistake that a bride and or groom can make on their wedding day? I have my answer. I'm going to tell it.
Biggest mistake.
But I'm wondering what yours
on the wedding day or in the preparation of the wedding day.
Wedding day.
On the day of
the reception, the whole.
I really think it's being a little too stressed out. I think that the biggest mistake you can make is as a bride or groom is being so worried about the way everything is going that you don't even enjoy the day. You're not living in the moment. You know, you're so concerned with the presentation and how everything is that you're just not able to
take your hands off the wheel.
Yeah,
and let other people drive.
That's the thing. I mean, and you're booking a venue that has a super professional staff. You're hiring really professional vendors, and professional vendors will have asked you enough questions so that they know exactly what they need to deliver. And if you have those pieces in place, then you should be able to back off and just enjoy your day. That is your sole job at your wedding, to just enjoy it.
Brides,
And
your
grooms.
wedding coordinators should be asking you lots and lots of questions. They should know you very well, and they shouldn't skip on out when they think that everything has picked up enough momentum and will sail itself.
Well,
Sometimes they will duck and dodge.
well,
On
and
the
sometimes
early-
they can. You know,
Sometimes it
It
can.
depends on, you know, a lot of times there's a room captain who's left in charge of things by
Sure.
the time, you know, the party's rocking and the formalities are over.
But sometimes when
But-
a wedding coordinator is needed and they're not there, that's happened a few times.
It can happen.
happen.
You know, things happen. You know,
Yeah.
family members will do
Sure.
crazy things.
Crazy.
I you know, the ones where somebody grabs the microphone and you know, we now ask clients, what do you want us to do if somebody comes up and says, I absolutely must have the microphone right now?
Yeah.
Do we hand it to them? Do we not hand it to them?
And that's part of the questionnaire in your itinerary.
Yeah.
And
It
man,
is.
you and I have handed microphones over to folks that
Oh yeah.
we just never, I don't know what we were thinking. You know, you get
Well-
some booze, and Uncle Ronnie has just flown in from Michigan.
Yeah. Or the father of the bride who took the mic and called out the groom for being unemployed.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was a tough night.
Wow. Wow.
Parents can be really tough. I
They need to
um,
step back and
they need to step back, and this is not their day. This is the day of their daughter or their son.
so many moms though, they try to make
The
it
moms
their-
and dads, boy, that day that groom's, I mean the father of the bride did that, I couldn't believe it.
yeah.
The parents can be tough. We no longer contract with parents. We only contract directly with the couple. And if I inadvertently get a parent who, you know, only communicates via email, books the gig without talking to me, and we don't know that it's a parent, then when the questionnaire comes in and it becomes clear that the bride and the groom are somebody else other than the contract person, we recontract it directly with the couple.
Smart.
Yeah, because, you know, I've been in that situation where the mother of the bride and the bride herself are at the DJ table having a knockdown, drag out, screaming match
Sure.
about what's going to be played
Right.
as the event is happening.
Parents should not, and can we state this for the record here? Parents should not be coordinators.
Correct.
They don't.
And
There's so much to that job
exactly.
that a trained coordinator is supposed to know.
I'll tell you, I've been doing weddings for 22 years, and I would not want to be a wedding coordinator. That is an incredibly difficult job.
Sure.
And the ones who do it well are incredibly good at what they do.
Yeah.
But
Man, do we know some good ones too?
boy, and we do know some great ones.
Yeah.
There are some people working at venues around Vermont who they're so professional, and they remain calm no matter what happens. They're helpful. They're thinking about the best interest of that couple and their wedding at all times.
Yeah.
And, you know, we communicate with them in advance. They communicate with us. We read each other's itineraries to make sure that, like, there's no differentiation between what they have and us.
Yeah.
And you know, if I've got something that's different, then I call them up and say, hey, like, do I have it right or do you have it right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not certain, let's get the couple and ask them. And
Yeah.
like, one way or another, we're going to make those two itineraries work. But
Sure.
that coordinator is incredibly important. And
it's not just coordinating the introductions of the wedding party. I mean, that's just one part of it.
Oh yeah. That's minuscule part of it. It's like the DJing, you know.
Sure.
People ask about you know, couples will call and they'll, when they initially start looking at wedding DJs, they often are thinking of the music during dancing. That's what they're thinking about.
Yeah.
And that's about 25% of the time that we're actually at the wedding.
Yeah.
The other 75% is getting there on time, key, most important part, getting set up, making sure you have the right equipment in the right places at the right times.
And that's cocktail hour, that's ceremony and reception.
So yeah, we're getting there hour and a half or so before, whatever. Getting the ceremony set up, getting the cocktail hour set up according to the plan. The plan is usually 8-10 pages long, details every last thing about everything we need to do, where we're setting everything up, what equipment is required for each piece, what music is required for each piece. So we're doing all that stuff. We'll do the microphones at the ceremony. You know, we might have people doing readings at the ceremony. They all need mics. Everything's got to happen exactly at the right time. The cocktail hour has to get set up in advance because there's no time between the ceremony and the cocktail hour. So, you know, you've got the spare system set up at the cocktail hour, and you've got you know, you've got your ceremony system going, and then as soon as the ceremony's over, people move over to the cocktail hour, and you kick the start button on that, and then you're moving system A from the ceremony site into the reception, and you're getting all this done.
Oh, yeah. And the whole time you're doing it as a DJ, it might be the middle of July, you're wearing a black tuxedo, it's 90 degrees outside, you've got a migraine, and you're parched.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what?
And you have to.
You know you're at a fantastic venue when the coordinator comes up and says, "Can I get you a bottle of water?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And of course, it's not their job to do that.
Sure.
And I always have my water bottle in the car. But you know, there are people that are such pros that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and gosh, we appreciate that. I mean, that just stands out like crazy.
Of course it does. We and Ken dictate the rest of the night.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely can.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if having the coordinator on your side and knowing, you know, that all the vendors and the reception coordinator from the venue is that they've all got your back and that you've got their back and everybody's working together to pull with the same goal.
And coordinators,
that's huge.
When a DJ arrives at the venue site and they're unloading gear, when you have a minute, go over and introduce yourself to them because they may not know what you look like.
Right.
Who is Cindy? You know, go introduce yourself to them.
Exactly. Yeah, that is huge. I mean, we really need to do that. And I tell all my guys, like, first thing on the itinerary is when you pull in, let them know you're there.
Back to
so they're not stressed.
Back to just having a great day and being happy and trying to have it as stress-free as possible. You and I have chatted on our phones at the end of a wedding, and I've said to you, are they going to make it or not? And you've said,
oh, boy.
No way. You've said, no way, Jose, and you've also said, Absolutely.
Yep.
And we know as DJs by the end of the night certainly, but sometimes by even 25% into the night, we know whether or not we've got a couple in front of us that are going to stay married forever.
You know, there's a lot of them where you don't, but there are definitely there's the small percentage where it's pretty clear one way or the other.
I mean,
you know,
they're never together. One's over here with his buddies for the whole night, and the bride's over here with her girls, and they're putting down the wine as fast.
Yeah, you know,
we just know.
Yeah,
we just continue.
Well, I mean, you know, we've also done those gigs where, you know, I distinctly remember, you know, getting on the mic, and you can always tell a lot about how the crowd is going to be, whether they're going to be energetic and dance a lot.
Oh, yeah.
When you get on that mic in the beginning of the gig and you say, "Good evening, folks. Welcome to John and Sarah's wedding. we're about to welcome our wedding party. So let's get a nice warm welcome for the parents of the bride. And people are either energetic or they're not. And I've done gigs, we used to ask the question. We would get on the mic and we'd say, "Oh, welcome everybody. Are we all ready to have a good time tonight?"
Yeah.
And we don't do that anymore because there was this one gig where dead silence. I asked that question. Nobody said a word.
Yeah.
Nobody clapped. I mean, it was pretty clear that, and we learned later that, it was one of those weddings where the two families were not happy about the situation.
Sure.
And, they were sort of there, but not psyched about it. And boy, that was a tough one.
I want to just, and we only have a couple of minutes left here, but I want to say, wedding coordinators, please don't forget that your DJ needs to have dinner.
Yes, feed the animals.
And there's two huge mistakes that I think can be made. The first one with the wedding coordinator is feeding the DJ and the photographer after everyone else has been fed. Number one biggest mistake that can be made, because if you feed the DJ and the photographer first or on the early side of the night, they can have time to eat quickly and get back into gear for the transition of post-dinner and get ready for the next stage, as opposed to them eating last, which now bottlenecks. And how many times have we as DJs and photographers been eating, and we take one bite and the wedding coordinator is saying they want to dance right now and sorry.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, I think the biggest mistake that a bride and groom can make, hands down over all of the weddings that we've DJ'd, is trying to squeeze too much into a 5-hour night. They've had alcohol, they've had food, they're dancing.
And it's been a stressful day. They've been up early in the morning. A lot of times they've traveled. Even if they haven't traveled, it was a wedding day. They were out of bed by 7 a.m., getting ready, getting dressed, Kids. It's been a long day. And if you do a 2 o'clock ceremony and you try to keep people engaged during that entire, you've got a long cocktail hour, which is they're usually more like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I've seen people drag out cocktail hour for 3.5 hours. The guests are bored out of their minds.
There's also a crowd every now and then that we get that they haven't seen each other in a long time. They're seeing each other for the first time in 10 years or whatever, and they don't really want to dance. They just want to sit and socialize for the majority of the crowd.
And we do get those.
And that's fine. But there is a lull, there is a pause when dinner is done, and it's usually when the bride and groom are going around table by table and speaking to each of their guests. There is a period of time that passes that is so long, and when you get a guest that comes up to you and says, "Are we going to start dancing anytime soon?"
It's too late at that point.
It's too late at that point.
And that happens a lot.
There just shouldn't be that long of a pause. You need to finish dinner and get dancing as soon as you can, because if the end time is 9:30 and you start dancing at 8 o'clock, you've got an hour and a half of dancing, which often just isn't enough. It's just not enough. And then when you have to pull the plug, you're the bad guy, and you get the crowd chanting one more song.
And you can't
do it. You can't do it, mostly because the venue is not allowing you to play later than a certain time.
Right, and their permit to operate may hinge on that.
Sure, of course. So my advice is, if it's a bouquet toss, garter, dollar dance, 5 groomsmen that are giving toasts, a 30-minute toast by father of the bride. Just be cognizant of
how much time these things take
is going by,
Yeah.
and don't be surprised if there's an hour and a half of dancing left at the end of the night. Get it done early,
Sure.
and get your crowd having a good time. They're antsy. They want to have fun. They're there to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, they are. And I will say, I think that that's one main reason that we see people doing what they're calling non-traditional weddings.
Right.
85% of guests of couples these days would classify their wedding as non-traditional.
Yeah.
So that begs the question, then what is a traditional wedding if only 15% of people are doing it? But traditional being like including all the traditions like the bouquet and garter,
Sure,
and like,
of course.
the dollar dance and all this stuff. Nobody, very few people, only 15% of couples are doing that sort of thing these days. And a lot of that is to save time. And it's a good thing, because I'll tell you, and I always tell clients that every time you stop dancing, you lose your momentum.
Sure.
As a DJ, that 25% of the gig when we are actually DJing, what we're trying to do is build momentum and beat mix our sets, so that we're starting with slower tempo stuff in each set and building up to a crescendo.
To get the older people on the floor first, because they're the first to leave.
Yep. We start with the older stuff.
Right.
And within that set, we're building from like slower to faster.
Sure.
And then we're moving on to the newer stuff later on in the night. And the amount of time dedicated to each type of music all depends on the crowd and the playlist provided by the couple. We have a pretty good idea that if the couple has programmed 30 songs from the pop and hip hop category, that's probably pretty important to them.
Right.
So we're going to focus on that, and we're going to get to it a little earlier than we otherwise would. But yeah, trying to keep everybody engaged is key, and you got to keep grandpa and grandma
happy on the floor
early on,
so that the photographer can get some pictures of them dancing.
Right. Because they're not going to hang around for 2.5 hours of pop and hip hop waiting for us to play Mustang Sally.
Brides, yeah. Look at this, Brides. And we only have a minute here left. Brides 2018 American Wedding Study just came out. The average wedding price $44,000. So
wow.
What I'm
That's
saying,
bigger than I even thought.
What we're saying is, think about how you want to do this the right way. Don't try to cram too much into the day and the night. Relax, have fun, enjoy this time, enjoy this moment. If you're not relaxed, that's going to show on those pictures that
absolutely
that you're paying so much money for that photographer for. Our podcast is proudly sponsored by CBD Crave. The quality you expect and deserve delivered right to your door. Fontaine Forestry and Millworks on Route 14, just down from Bragg Farm. FontaineMillworks.com in East Montpelier, and brought to you by Peak Entertainment, Newton Wells and Company. Your website, your phone number for folks to get in touch with you.
PeakDJ.com. That's peak like a mountaintop, PeakDJ.com, and 802-888-6978. You can also find us at VermontDJ.com or NewHampshireDJ.com.
And you're on Facebook.
We are on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. Very good, man. Thank you so much for coming in here,
Thank you, man.
Always a pleasure.
22 years.
Yeah,
We've been talking about something like
this.
this even before YouTube existed.
Yes.
So,
thank you again, and we'll catch you next time. I'm J.D. Green. This is Newton Wells from Peak Entertainment, one of our proud sponsors of this YouTube podcast. Make sure you like, you share, you comment, you tell your friends about it, and thanks for subscribing.